everybody. Welcome to the Harley Carnes Podcast, Harley on the Headlines. It's just me talking about what's going on briefly. Been doing news for a long, long time. I appreciate you finding this and spending a little time with it. You know, time is precious. We all can figure out a million things to do with it, so thanks for doing a little of it with me. I do appreciate it. You know what's fun about this? I know I've said this 100 times. I never know what's going to happen. I never know what we're going to be looking at each day because everything changes. Things do change. Now, we know lately, of course, we're going to be talking about Iran a little bit maybe, and right now, Artemis. You know, by the way, liking, following, subscribing, helping to spread the invitation, that sure helps, and I hope you will. Now, if you don't know it yet, if you haven't figured it out, I love the space program. The last time we saw people willing to put absolutely everything on the line in pursuit of knowledge to this level, their vehicles had wings of canvas and engines good for a Model T. Before that, there was canvas too, on a wooden wagon between St. Louis and San Francisco. Right now, we have 4 astronauts in a capsule and a crew module that are in what's called the moon's sphere of influence. Yes, the Earth's gravitational field is still there. The moon travels in it. But the moon's gravity, even though only 1/6 of what Earth has to offer, is the stronger of the two, as far as the spaceship is concerned. Artemis 2 will be able to orbit the moon a few times, take a gander at and some pictures of the far side of the moon. Humans will see things with their peepers that only robots have seen before now, and all of that is just very cool. Humans are meant to explore. It's something in our DNA going back to stone tools and digging for tubers in the dirt. We put miles behind us because that's what we do. Yes, there are homebodies. They also can't help themselves. They have my sympathy. NASA talks about setting up shop on the moon long-term, domiciles, workspaces. It's inspiring talk. But I don't think we're going to be doing that, and certainly not enjoying the process for quite some time to come. There are 3 major deadly problems that we have not yet solved, and only one of which gets any real attention. I'll spend a little time on them in the future, but you might want to do some research of your own just for fun. The first is space radiation. If we don't solve it, and the chances of doing so are pretty slim, we won't be going to Mars, much less build a colony there. Space radiation will destroy you, plain and simple. Even after comparatively short flights, there are negative impacts. We know because we've experienced them. The second is dirt, moon dust, Mars red dust and dirt. In both cases, they are dramatically different from dirt, dust, or sand on Earth. Critically so, because given time, that dust will also kill us. Why? Because the short stroke is this. On Earth, dust and dirt and sand become rounded and smoothed and ground down by time and by wind and by water. On the moon and on Mars, that dust is the product of meteor and meteorite impacts, broken, shattered boulders and rocks. The resultant dust is not rounded and smooth. It is sharp, like tiny pieces of shrapnel or little knives, the kind of thing we use to grind down steel and gemstones. Given time, it'll get into the cracks and the seams and the gears of all of our machinery on the moon and on Mars. And it'll kill it. And it'll kill us because it'll ruin whatever we build there. NASA learned about this when moon rocks were brought back for study and moon dust. They don't talk about that much because along with electrostatic cling, it not only gets on everything, you can't just brush it off. It stays suspended for a while instead of falling the way it would in Earth's gravity. And that brings us to the third deadly issue, gravity. We humans, we are 1G Earth beings. Our heart and circulatory system, our respiratory system, all of us are fully adapted to one force of gravity. Our heart muscle is strong, and it runs for decades in 1G. You put us in space for any real length of time, and our body says, hey, it's a lot easier to push the blood now because I'm in zero or partial G. And our heart says, hey, I don't have to be so strong anymore. I can take a break. And it does. In fact, the heart says, I can shrink. I can become less strong because that's all that's required to move the blood. Riding a bicycle and pulling on elastic bands doesn't solve it either, because on Earth, my body copes with one force of Earth-sized gravity 24/7, 365. In space, exercising is just not enough. We know this because it's one of the effects on our astronauts after only a few weeks in space. They've come back with smaller, weaker hearts, and you don't rebuild them. They don't get bigger, and certainly not right away. Going to Mars will take months. Then it's months there on the surface, maybe longer, dealing with the cold and the deadly dust and the space radiation, and then 3 or 4 months back. That's just to go to Mars. Forget about going there and living and staying. Check out some of the work of theoretical physicist Richard Feynman. It is sobering. The bottom line is we're still not there yet. I love Elon Musk's enthusiasm and NASA's, but look, we're not there yet. You know, as Feynman put it, and this is what's so sobering, if we send people to Mars, most likely it's a one-way trip, because when they get back, their bodies could not cope with our gravity. Their bones would break. It's not good. You may remember the guy who drove his car into a big crowd in Iberia Parish, Louisiana, just yesterday at a New Year's parade being celebrated by Laotians. Some people immediately thought, terrorism. Well, nope. Todd Landry of Jeanerette was just skunk drunk. Had an open container of booze in the car with him. Of course, that's not all that unusual in Louisiana, which is famous for its drive-through cocktail purchases. I know, been there, done that. The man is 57, now faces charges, 18 counts of driving under the influence and striking multiple pedestrians. Sent them to hospitals. 2 of them had to ride in helicopters to get there quick enough. The sheriff said it was unintentional. It was also dumb and illegal. Blew .13 on the breathalyzer. Even worse, he was driving a really cool-looking 66 Chevy Malibu. Might lose the car. As far as Iran goes today, we're mostly just watching the clock tick. I'm willing to bet Iranian negotiators are watching the ticking timepiece too as we get closer to President Trump's deadline for reaching a peace deal. By now, even they probably realize the man is not in the business of selling wolf tickets. He means and does what he says. Here's a prediction. They, the Iranians, whoever the Iranians have these days, will try to make a deal that they have no intention of living up to, that will buy them time so they can still try to build a nuclear weapon. Now, here's why I say that. We've heard much about the buried 100 pounds or so of enriched uranium, buried most likely under tons of B-2 bomber rubble. And we're hearing about how difficult it may be for us to retrieve it because it is so heavily guarded by the Revolutionary Guard Corps. They're guarding it because they want to keep it. Think about that. If they were really ready to give up on building a nuke, they'd say, it's over there in the mess you made. Go get it. No. The word is they are likely to fight about it, and that means, well, it says more than any new streaming, meaningless dribble they might spew. Tennessee has a famous Lookout Mountain, of course. Arizona also has a mountain called Lookout, even though it's not as well known. It's north of Phoenix, and hikers love to saunter up its steep trails. One hiker, a man, encountered a bunch of bees. Don't know for sure if they were Africanized honeybees, a.k.a. killer bees, but they were mighty aggressive, and they stung that hiker more than 100 times, and he was done walking or going anywhere. Local rescue crew went to get him and take him to the hospital in a hurry by helo. That's how bad the stings were. Here's the advice from the experts. A, don't disturb the hives. Okay. If I see it, I'll leave it alone. B, don't wear cologne or perfume when you're out there. The bees might think you're a great big flower. They're also attracted to the color yellow. And if you do encounter a swarm, don't argue with the bees. Cover your head and your face and retreat. Double time. Now, that's good advice. I once took a chainsaw to an old dead tree. Rudely excited the big hive of black-faced hornets inside that tree. And they came boiling out of there, intent on driving me away from their home, which they did. I got stung a couple dozen times and used up a considerable bit of the yellow mustard in the fridge. Interesting day. Something I relearned in those moments. Hornets will chase you. They will. They'll chase you quite a ways. Sure glad the guy's going to be okay. Want to thank you for joining us today. For Harley on the Headlines, I hope there's something worthwhile in these little collections of stories, and I hope that you'll help put out the word, maybe get a few more people to join in. Like, follow, subscribe, send some emails to somebody. Let Mama know. I'd sure appreciate it. In the meantime, I am Harley Carnes, and we'll talk again. Until then, do yourself a real favor. Make some good decisions in your life today. Be happy. That's a choice. And fly safe. It is the only way to get there.